Welcome, Life Sciences. Welcome to another exciting life science lesson. What are we looking at today? We're going to do a mammalian tissue revision. And I know if you are anything like the kids that I teach, mammalian tissue was a very difficult concept for them to understand. Now, before we start, very often when I teach this, I actually at the end, we dissect a chicken wing. I know that sounds really weird, but when you eat your chicken at home, all right, your chicken wing, a lot of the mammalian tissue that we're going to look at, all right, just quickly revise, you can actually find on your chicken wing. All right, so next time you eat your chicken wing, maybe you're just a little bit more aware of the mammalian tissue that we are looking at. So guys, the most important thing we looked at when we look at, all right, the tissue is what is a tissue. So here in front of me, I have the level of organization. Now, you started off the beginning, you probably looked at something called biochem, right? We did biochemistry, and that was looking at nutrients and vitamins and proteins. And why did we look at that? Because we need to understand the basic concept of what a cell is. Now, when we looked at cells, we said they had certain kinds of shapes and arrangements and their structure versus their functions. And what we have look here now is, what is a tissue? A tissue is when I take a group of cells, right? So not just one cell, it's a group of cells. That group all have the similar structure. And what I do is I put them together and they need to perform a specific function. Now, when we looked at the concept of a cell, right, remember cell is just a model. And now we need to take these concepts and we need to change it. We need to take the concept of a cell and we need to pimp it up. That's exactly what we need to do. We need to pimp the cell up. We need to change it, to tweak it, to perform its particular function. Now, when I look at the things that I can do with my body, all right, things need to be different. How my brain works is different to how my muscle works, is different to how, all right, other parts, how other things are going to work. So that means I'm going to take the basic concept of a cell, I'm going to change it, and all these cells are going to look similar. Okay. The first group of mammalian tissues that we looked at was this epithelial tissue. What epithelial tissue means, it lined all the cavities. I want you to take your tongue, all right, and run it around your mouth. That's epithelial tissue. I don't want you to do this, but if I stuck my finger up my nose, that's hollow. That is epithelial tissue. When I swallow, when I breathe, those are all tubes. That is what I mean by epithelial tissue. They line everything, right? So they're the outer layer and they're going to protect all the ones underneath. And we looked at 4 different epithelial tissues. The first one we looked at was squamous epithelium. Those are flat cells. I said often look at the tiles on your floor. That's exactly what they do. And we're going to find them in any organ where I need smooth transport. In my blood vessels, in my heart, in my lungs, where it's nice and smooth and things can move slowly. You don't want your, all right, you don't want your blood vessels to be a 4x4 track because then they're going to get stuck and we're going to get blood clots. Okay, so remember, look at the function and look at the structure. Flat, smooth. Then we looked at cuboidal. What does cuboidal mean? It's a cube shape, all right? It's as high as it is long. And we're going to find those in glands. That's why I put this picture over here. We're going to find it in our adrenal glands. We're going to, anywhere where we're going to secrete something, in our sweat glands, in our thyroid glands. All right, so what's going to happen is we're going to find cuboidal in our glands. Right, you're going to probably find that later on when you look at the kidney, etc. Then we looked at 2 similar, all right, structured cells, And remember, look at the epithelial, very often named after what it looks like. Columnar, because they're column-shaped. And these guys have got very special cells called goblet cells. And those goblet cells very often produce mucus. Now, why would I need mucus? Let's have a look where I find it. This is my digestive system. And once I start swallowing food, the food needs to go throughout this whole system. And what is going to make it so nice and easy to move through is going to be the fact that all these mucus cells are going to make transport so much easier. Okay, so that is my columnar epithelium. Why? Because they are column-shaped, longer than they are wide. The final epithelial tissue that we looked at, right, is ciliated epithelial. Now, what we need to look at, there's just one thing that you need to understand. That if a cell, all right, the cytoplasm looks like that, that is called microvilli. All right, that is called a microvilli. Here, however, is a cell that's separate, and on top of that cell, right, we've got little hair-like structures. And those hair-like structures are called cilia. So when we look at ciliated columnar, they are column-shaped cells, but unlike the ones we find in our digestive system, they have got these microscopic little hairs at the top, hence the name ciliated columnar. Now, they also have goblet cells because they're also going to produce mucus, but for a different reason. Guys, what system have I got over here? All right, my respiratory or my gaseous exchange system. And why will I need these with little hairs and the mucus? Because throughout my system, will I breathe until around about there, these little hairs and the mucus are going to trap any kind of dust or unwanted things, and we're going to get them out of the body. So imagine they trap there, those little cilia, they move, right? So if I get all dusty and stuff, they move, and they take all the things that I don't want to go into my lungs, and they take it out. All right. So when we look at the concept of epithelial tissue, they line. As I said to you, here, this is a hollow tube. It lines. Here, when I breathe in, these are hollow tubes. They line. So epithelial tissue is going to be my lining tissue. Okay, guys, let's have a look at a question on the epithelium. Now here it says here, study the diagram below and answer the questions that follow. So there is a little manicure in the middle, and there's a whole lot of cells around it. They don't tell you what it is, so you need to be able to recognize it. Okay, the first thing it says is identify the tissues labeled A, B, and D. So 3 marks there. So number A, right, gives, now have a look when we look at each of these things. They give you the tissue and they give you the location. That is really nice. They are helping you, all right, giving you the location, where it is found, and obviously you need to recognize it. So here I can see they are column shaped and they've got little hairs at the bottom. So this is going to be my ciliated columnar epithelium, and I write all of it over there. The next one they asked me was B. Now I look at the shape. Remember, epithelial tissue is all about shape, and it tells me it's in a gland, but the shape is cuboidal, and you don't write just cuboidal. They asked you the tissues, and it is epithelium, cuboidal epithelium. The last tissue that they asked you is number D, right? And they said over here that, as you can see, it's found in your small intestine, but they are column in shape. So they are going to be columnar epithelium. Guys, epithelial tissue is easy to identify, so very often it's a nice question to ask. Some tissues are difficult to see, so very often the examiners usually, or hopefully your examiners, will choose the one that is much clearer and obvious for you to see. Now the next question. State one function of each of the tissues labeled B and D. Now, don't stop there. A lot of you stop with that sentence, but it says, in the locations seen in the diagram. Now, that is very important. So, number B, I said was cuboidal. Now, what is its function? Look here. All right. It has, so what does cuboidal tissue do? It secretes, where is it? Saliva in the mouth. Now, what do we see? Say, what the word is? Secretes, because that is what cuboidal tissue does. It is found in glands, and glands secrete. And they said to you, you must use the location in the diagram, and there it said to you that it's found in the mouth. Number D, all right, is in the small intestine. So actually here it's in the stomach. So if we're looking at the stomach, all right, what do we know about, right, epithelium in the stomach? What does it secrete? All right, epithelial, it can have two things. It lines the stomach and protects the stomach from what? It would be there from the hydrochloric acid. What else could you have maybe said there? Okay, that it's in the stomach. And what do we know? That it also secretes. It can secrete mucus in the stomach, all right, to protect the stomach. So there we have the two different things that it can, all right, protect. Guys, the last question here. State two ways in which tissue A is adapted for its function. Two ways. All right, what does it do? What's the most important thing? It has cilia. And what do the cilia do? It can move or trap, all right, dust in the respiratory system. And what else does it have? It has mucus glands. And what does the mucus glands do? It also traps dust and gets it out of the body. Okay, and gets out of the body. All right, guys, I'm afraid that is all we have time for. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.